Well, coming up on today's show, the July sales figures start to trickle in. Now we're into August for both Europe and North America. Find out the winners and the loser. The Mercedes-Benz EQS has been caught in spy shots, and find out about party and camper mode in Teslas. Well, good morning, good afternoon and good evening wherever you are in the world. Hello and welcome to the Thursday, the 2nd of August edition of EV News Daily. It's Martyn Lee here with the news you need to know about electric cars and the move towards sustainable transport. Right, let's get this out of the way first of all. I'm recording this super late at night here in the UK, and even then I'm going to miss the Tesla earnings call, which, if you're not a massive Tesla fan, not the end of the world, but kind of interesting anyway for brand agnostic listeners of this show, just kind of generally interested in all things EV, because it'll start pretty late here, it'll go on for an hour, and then it'll just be the early hours of the morning here. But it's a bit of news in brief. Firstly, Tesla has released their Q2 letter to investors, and that always comes out a little while before that call with Elon and the analysts and all those kind of things, and that gives us plenty to be going through, because all they'll really be doing is asking questions about what's in the letter, hopefully, and a few things that have been on their mind as well. So this is a good start for the podcast today. Well, Tesla have, literally in the last 10 minutes, said this: it's fair to say that no production ramp of any other product has been as closely watched and debated as the Model 3. We are proud of our team for producing 7,000 Model 3, S and X vehicles in the last week of June. Thank you to all of our reservation holders. We faced multiple obstacles during the ramp, but it was worth it. A total vehicle output of 7,000 a week would be 350,000 per year, and that will enable Tesla to become sustainably profitable for the first time in our history. In July 2018, so this is in the last month that we've just had, this is new guidance, the Model 3 not only had the number one market share position in its segment in the US, it outsold all other mid-sized premium sedans combined. All of them combined outsold by one single model, accounting for 52% of the segment. The popularity of Model 3 is a testament to the product, they say. Based on trade-ins that we've received, we can see that the total addressable market for Model 3 is much larger than mid-sized premium sedans. That's interesting, talking about the trade-in cars that they are getting as a clue to the kind of cars that people are buying a Model 3 instead of, the kind of other segments that the Model 3 can start to eat into. Well, during the month of July, Tesla's repeated the weekly production of 5,000 Model 3 per week. That was the massive question that everybody was waiting for an answer for. Can they do it again? And during July, they have repeated the weekly production of 5,000 Model 3, approximately 5,000 Model 3 cars, multiple times, they say. More than once, whilst also still producing 2,000 Model S and Model X's every single week. Having achieved a 5,000 Model 3s per week milestone, now they've got their eyes set on 6,000, which they say will be done by late August per week. Tesla then expects to increase production over the next few quarters beyond 6,000, and they believe the increasing capacity by improving the utilization of existing lines. There's some old General Assembly lines that, if they make them more efficient, is going to provide that capacity rather than building new lines. That looks like what they're going to be doing. They say that they're going to increase production to 10,000. Wow. 10,000 Model 3s per week as fast as we can. So no fixed and firm date on that. We believe the majority of Tesla's production lines will be ready to produce at this rate by the end of the year. So maybe you're looking into early part of next year before they can start to look at those numbers, but no fixed date on that. They say that they will have to increase capacity in certain places, and we will need our suppliers, they say, to meet this as well. We expect to hit the rate sometime next year, is the quote. Sometime next year. They go on to talk about the challenges over the last 12 months and over the quarter as well, talking about General Assembly 3 and General Assembly 4. Yes, the one that, if you are being unkind, is built under canvas. It's not exactly a tent though, is it? However, they go into a lot of detail about the Gigafactory 1 and the annualized rate of production of 20 gigawatt hours. It's then going to be the highest volume battery plant in the world by a significant margin, they say, was achieved at the end of July. They go on to talk about the Model S and the Model X as well, and so that the demand for that remains still very high. Quarter 2 2018 that we've just had being the highest ever Q2 for Model S and Model X orders. The Model 3 isn't cannibalizing the other cars, which so many people, chin-stroking keyboard warriors who thought they knew what they were talking about, were like, the minute Model 3 sells in numbers, the other two die off completely. Not only is it not happening, that the opposite is happening. More people are coming in with the publicity around electric cars to buy those S and X's. They produced 53,339 vehicles in Q2 and delivered 22,000 Model S and X vehicles and 18,000 Model 3 vehicles, totaling 40,000 deliveries. They go on to talk about the energy products as well, which I know many people are excited about as being an area that is growing very quickly for Tesla, and the outlook for the company as well. They say that now they've reached a production rate of 5,000 Model 3s a week. We are focused on further ramping that production and achieving profitability and continuous cost efficiencies. They expect to produce up to 55,000 Model 3s in Q3. So that's the guidance, between 50 and 55,000 Model 3s in the next few weeks alone. So that is Q3. An increase. That would be an increase of 75% to 92% on the previous quarter. The increase is utterly staggering. The earnings call will be happening in a couple of hours' time, and that won't be, none of those details will be on today's podcast. I might put out a separate podcast with just that earnings call on for those interested. If you see it come up in your feed and you really aren't a big Tesla fan, feel free to delete, because there'll be nothing in there that you'll be interested in. So a couple of other quick bits of news then. Tesla also increased its referral round to September the 16th. That is free unlimited supercharging for the S, the X and the Model 3 Performance. Yeah, that's right. The Model 3 is now included in the referral scheme. And I don't own a Tesla. I don't have I've got no, whatever the phrase is, skin in the game, right? I certainly haven't got my £1,000 down for one, right? So I'm not pumping one particular company over another, but they've included the Model 3 Performance in the referral program for free supercharging for life. And they've retroactively applied it to all existing owners of the Model 3 Performance, and then today going forward with referrals. So not only have they said we're going to include the Model 3 Performance with the referral scheme, but if you've already bought one, as in you'd missed the boat, you haven't, we'll give it to you anyway. So all of a sudden, the car that you've already taken delivery of, you've given the company your money. They've cashed the check. It's in their bank account. They're now giving you more. When does that ever happen? When have you ever bought a car? I've never bought a car, and then they've given you more. All you do is you get bombarded with letters from the local franchise dealer saying, buy our service package, buy this, buy that, sign up for this, sign up for that, give us more money. I really am incredibly impressed with that gesture. It just wins people over. It wins more and more people over when that kind of thing, and you end up getting word of mouth. So it's why Tesla don't spend a penny, as far as I know, above the line advertising. They spend plenty in making people talk about it. Massively loss making, don't get me wrong. But that's an impressive way to do it, don't you think? It's a nice way of doing business. Okay, let's move on to the sales figures in the US. In North America, the Nissan Leaf sales, I'm disappointed by this. They're down. Again, Eric Loveday at Inside EV says, you win some, you lose some. And in the case of the Nissan Leaf, you lose again. Well, Eric digs into the monthly data, writing, with just 1,149 Leafs sold in July, the electric hatch again sees sales slow down, both month over month and year on year. In the month over month area, sales dropped off by 10% from the 1,376 Leafs sold in June. Year over year, they're down 8.5%. On last July, a year on year. When you look at the Inside EV's estimate, and they estimated that just under 15,000 Model 3s were sold in July alone, and knowing it's going upwards, what you and I have just talked about on the podcast with that investor letter that they released minutes ago, those numbers just seem painfully slow. I'm a huge fan of the new Leaf. Really sad to see those sales numbers. Why are they going down? So, Is it just a North American problem? If you're a podcast listener in Europe or anywhere else in the world, have you bought a 40 kilowatt hour Leaf, and what was the experience like? What was your wait time? Which one did you buy? Are you waiting for one at the moment? I'd love to know. Please get in touch. You can email hello@evnewsdaily.com, and you can get in contact on Twitter, DM me, put a message in the comments of YouTube. There's loads of ways to get a comment out there. If you are still waiting for the Leaf on the wait list at the moment. Also, be wary of anyone comparing the Leaf to the Model 3. The Model 3 Performance probably has an average selling price of $70,000. That's about £56,000 in the UK. Those two cars are not comparable. They both run on batteries, but that's the only comparison. Well, talking sales figures as well, and staying in Europe, in the first half of the year in 2018, January to the end of June, EVs doing very, very well. Alternatively fueled vehicles is the category they all get lumped into, performing well. So electrics and hybrids and plug-ins. They posted an increase of 31% and recorded 450,000 registrations, making up 5.4% of total registrations. Like I said, that does include hybrids in there as well. They accounted for 56% of the market in Norway, 13% in Finland, 11% in Sweden, and in Germany, it's struggling a bit, 3.4%. According to Green Car Congress, the diesel decline continued rapidly during the first 6 months of 2018. Registrations were down 17%. And it's now just 37% of the entire fuel market here in the UK, which if you're listening in the USA, you'll think is an enormous number, but it's been way over 50% here for years. Lowest share in Europe as an average in 17 years. Diesel's biggest declines were Norway, down over 30%, UK down 30%, Slovenia down 30%, Finland down 20%, Belgium down 20%. Now, Philippe Munoz, JATO's global analyst, said this, and I quote, "It was certainly a good first half for the European market, and it's due to the choice that customers now have. Car makers continue to update and modernise their traditional models, while the range of SUVs on offer continues to grow." And yes, SUVs are growing. The diesel crisis certainly affected the speed of growth in the market. Consumers are overcoming this by turning to alternatively fueled solutions, aka electric cars. Well, one of the reasons why those figures are good, because hybrids are lumped in, and the company that's doing really well with hybrids is Toyota. And if I can stay here in Europe for a second, Toyota have had a stellar sales 6 months for their hybrids. They currently have an ad campaign at the moment, though, selling their soft hybrids, and the headline they've given them is Toyota's self-charging hybrids, because they claim that when you come up to the lights, they're capable of doing some regen. Now, the reaction from the EV community is overwhelmingly negative. The anger aimed at Toyota for this is incredible. For weeks, they've been taking heat on social media. I mean, my personal opinion, if you care, I think it's frustrating. It obfuscates the technology because there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid. You've got to put fossil fuels, polluting fossil fuels that have emissions that kill people, that cause serious illness, that increase the amount of visits to hospitals, the increase of asthma amongst children. All of these things are increasing because of pollutants, particulates in fossil fuels that we are pumping into and out of combustion cars. They aren't green cars. They lower CO2, they lower some emissions, and they can stand by those claims because they're true. But burning fossil fuels is not a green thing to do. And so their ad campaign is a little disingenuous, in my opinion, but that's just what do I know? They claim it's aimed at people who don't understand hybrids, which I think is enormously insulting in 2018 to the consumers who can do their own research, thanks, and they do get it. Yes, there's more work to be done, more education to do. But maybe people don't want a full electric. Maybe they do need to buy a plug-in hybrid, but don't tell them that they are self-charging hybrids. Personal opinion, if you bear with me, I think Toyota should, if I were them, I would say we are the experts in hybrid technology. Nobody makes as many hybrids as we do. We understand. If you want a hybrid, we're the ones for you. And everyone will be like, okay, cool. So how many cars did you sell in the first half of this year? 521,000 cars sold in Europe for Toyota. 46% of them, half of those cars, were hybrids. They're the experts on hybrids. They should go out and just come out and say, look, if you want one, come to us, right? They sold 1,693 plug-in cars. That's a rounding error, right? Just over 1,500 cars that you can plug into. So, of course, their ad campaign is going to be biased towards hybrids, but don't denigrate other technology to make your technology seem better. If you want the tallest building in town, you can either build the biggest one or knock other people's down. And at the minute, they're trying to knock other people's down. And I think in 2018, consumers are just too smart. I think it's a quick way to lose. But again, just my opinion. In response to some of the criticism that I've seen, Toyota have been really super patient, always replying to everybody on Twitter. They have been talking about fuel cell vehicles. They said they have the widest range of fuel cell vehicles, for instance. In the first 6 months of the year, they sold 101 Mirais. 100 of them went to kind of a test project for taxis in Paris, in France. So they sold one. They sold one car. They sold one fuel cell car. And if I was VW, I'd have bought that car just to see what they're up to. Anyway, moving on. Mentioning VW, just a quickie. I saw that VW plans to shut its main factory in Wolfsburg in Germany for between 1 and 2 days a week between August and September this year to deal with issues arising from the new engine emissions test cycle. According to autonews.com, Volkswagen's plant in Emden will also be closed on some days in the third and fourth quarter because of lackluster demand for those cars that aren't fully either meeting the WLTP. So the new thing's called WLTP, and it's a new way of testing the car's emissions. It's certainly really hurting companies whose fleet CO2 emissions haven't come down as quickly as they thought they would. But this has been on the cards for years. And it seems like we've got to the summer of 2018 and more than one automaker has gone, oh, this is crazy. We can't meet these emissions regulations now. And you go, well, I'm an idiot on a podcast, but you knew they were coming. Well, moving on to Mercedes-Benz, and spy photographs have been recently captured of a large electric sedan from Mercedes-Benz testing at Mercedes headquarters in Sindelfingen in Germany, says Eric Everts for Green Car Reports. In line with Mercedes-Benz naming convention, they expect it to be called the EQS. We talk a lot about the EQC, but this will be the EQS. Is it going to be parallel with the S-Class, the big flagship S-Class from Mercedes-Benz? Previous statements have said it'll be on sale in 2020. Motor Trend are the ones with the pics. I'll put a link in the show notes, by the way, if you want to give them some clicks. They say we now have the first spy shots of a large electric sedan to sit alongside the S-Class. Mercedes execs have previously hinted at the car starting production in 2020. We'll see it listed as the 2021 model. Final story then, and this is great. Fred Electric picked up a tweet from Elon Musk and ran with it. This is such a cool story. Tesla has already made available a camper mode for their cars to let owners sleep in their cars whilst running things like climate control. But it now sounds like Tesla is going a step further to enable you to power all of your outdoor fun. Go camping, go for a weekend away, go and hang out. Pop the boot, the trunk, as you would call it in North America. Say I'm bilingual. And then you can have some fun on a camping trip with because it's just got a huge battery in your car. Elon tweeted, and I quote, "We're adding a party and camper mode to the S3X." He didn't list it in order. He listed it in sex order. Sorry, S3X. So your car can maintain airflow, temp, selective lights, music and power devices for 48 hours or more while parked. Big batteries rock. End tweet. Thank you very much for bearing with me today. Lots of Tesla stuff. I'm sorry about that. But we will do a little bit more, and then maybe we'll back off it a little bit and make room for the others. In the meantime, there's a few other podcasts. If you've got longer than the 20 minutes that this podcast has taken you to listen to, this is show 199, by the way. And because I'm good at math, there's 198 previous ones of the podcast to download. You know, iTunes and all the usual podcast places and YouTube. Also, the blog, which is evnewsdaily.com. Don't know what's happened in the last week. Has someone shared it? Because the hits have kind of like doubled in the last week. evnewsdaily.com is the cheeky little WordPress blog with all of this info, like the show notes, the audio and everything on there. It would mean a lot. It would mean so much if you could share this podcast with somebody, with a forum, with a Facebook group who might be interested in what we talk about and the comments that I try and read out, as many of your comments on the show as well. Someone who is EV curious and not yet buying, maybe thinking of buying a used one. please pass it on. Please share it with friends and family. Word of mouth is huge, and nothing would mean more to me than if you can share the podcast, because it's about spreading the word about electric cars so that we can all drive cleaner. Say hi on my socials, Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter. Search EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. It's going to be a late night for me listening to this call. I'll catch you tomorrow.